and welcome to today's Build It with AI session. I'm your host, George Tubb, one of the partner development managers based here in the UK, working with strategic fintech partners. And I'm excited to be hosting Uzair Bawany, the Chief Commercial Officer and co-founder of Traydstream, who are revolutionizing the automation and digitization of trade document checking. Welcome, Uzair. So, Uzair, I've had the pleasure of working with Traydstream for quite a while now, but for those who aren't familiar with your platform, do you mind introducing yourself and maybe just giving us the origin story of Traydstream?
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity, first of all, George. Traydstream was set up in 2017, really with some ideas that me and a colleague of mine who actually used to run Citibank's trade business in Milan, over many espressos in Milan, thought a lot about the fact that why was this pain point so prevalent in trade finance. We've gone from an environment where cash management has gone from writing checks to tapping phones or tapping watches, and yet trade was still this prehistorical manual document checking effort. And I guess the curious part of me always wanted to know why this has never been done and what happened and what was the reason for that. So that's really how it all started. So me and my co-founder Akile came up with the ideas around how could we do things differently. And that's really how it all started. Then we had a bunch of friends and people we knew we consulted with to talk to, put a little bit of money into this to start with, and started seeing if this was something that could actually work. And here we are 8 years later, with what we believe is the platform of choice for most banks around the world, doing something that I think even 5 years ago, people didn't believe was possible. Automated the whole document checking process, data extraction, review, according to all trade rule standards and global standards for ICC and banking commission structures. And we are able to now perform a function what a human would take hours, a machine is done in minutes.
So did you have an early customer or organization that sort of partnered with you on this journey as you were developing out the technology?
Yes, we did. We had a few early adopters. Standard Bank was a great supporter of us, obviously the largest trade bank in South Africa. There was another bank in the Middle East who helped us and supported us a lot. And that helped us to train the machine, to get the documents flow through, and to prove the benefit and value with all the rules that we've developed, which today is over 400,000 different permutations to check all documents according to UCP 600. And I should also say that when we started, we were very adamant that we would stay cloud-based, and looking at all the providers. Microsoft was for sure the most global in its reach, and that helped us as well a lot to give comfort to many of our banks that we could actually host data centers in their country, in their regions, which made it easy for us to sell the idea of cloud.
So when did that partnership with Microsoft first originate? Was that from the sort of early inception around the product design and development? Did it come a bit later on?
Yeah, we had a very interesting journey with Microsoft. It started very much with us pushing and doing and asking Microsoft for lots of discounts as an early starter. And then we were enrolled onto the Pegasus program, which was the early kind of startup phase. And we got some support very much post-design, where we were live with one or two customers. We started talking about MAC agreements, working with a lot of your team across the world to try and help us and support us with infrastructure support and obviously all the support services that we needed for customers. And it's kind of grown from there to the point now where, George, you're a fantastic partnership manager of ours, and it's great to have that dedicated support, because I think the need to have a sponsor at Microsoft is very important, because hard to navigate in such a huge machine. And we certainly get a lot more opportunities to speak and co-brand now with your support. Perhaps in the early days when we were very much trying to sell the message and the idea, but perhaps we're given lots of technical support, but maybe not the marketing side.
I'd love to double click on actually some of that kind of problem statement that you were addressing, particularly in those sort of early years with clients. So that value exchange between you and them. What were some of the challenges that you were fundamentally addressing with Traydstream, and do they differ between some of the different audiences you work with? Does it differ between banks and corporates?
Yeah, I think, yeah. So just to kind of start by solidifying the idea and what we're saying, the challenges you have is that it's manual paper, and you have lots of unstructured data in manual paper. And I think people initially didn't believe that was even possible. How can you pull data with almost no or little human intervention in a document that looks different every time? It's easy when you've got a business card, there are 5 data points, you pull it. But when you've got an invoice or a packing list or a bill of lading with hundreds of data points, trying to get that pulled out every time is a challenge. And then to be able to interpret every clause of an LC in order to be able to understand what needs to happen when you check the documents is another huge challenge. So we have spent, and to answer your question, we spent a lot of time with banks, and the early adopters have to be really recognized and thanked for allowing us to really understand and interpret every rule and every possible and every situation, because there are no two same situations. So we've had to create clauses, libraries of clauses with NLP around it to be able to understand each and every clause, interpret, and then use that data. And we've, as you know, built a lot of our OCR off the back of the Microsoft Vision platform and developed our own AI on that to be able to really use some of the machine learning to pull data and take from it. And I think, so you've got the technical challenges, of course, then you've got banks' lack of belief, and the fact that, is this possible to be done? And actually what we did was, in the early days back in 1819, I was asked to kind of chair an ICC digitization doc automation group under Michael Frontamidis, who was running the digital initiative at the ICC. And we developed a paper around how banks can adopt trade automation, trade finance document automation using our platform. And actually the myth that it has to be structured and standard is not the case, as it was in the past. Today, you can have unstructured, unstandard data, and we can still train a machine to pull that data. And to the second point you asked, obviously, banks are checking documents from the corporate. So the originator of the documents are coming from the corporates. So we're talking to them about how we can work with them and banks in conjunction to make that process smoother and easier for everybody.
So out of interest, what are the critical metrics that the clients are looking to address here, or that they're measuring with your partnership? Are they looking at document processing time? Are they looking at accuracy? Or is this really about trying to reduce overhead costs and managing risk? Like what are the kind of specifics that they're looking at?
It's a great question, and there is no one answer, interestingly enough. The beauty of our solution is that it attracts many values and benefits, and obviously there are differences based on the bank. I mean, you go to parts of Europe and their biggest concern is the fact that their doc checkers are getting older and replacing them is becoming harder. So there's this whole operational risk mitigation process that needs to be thought about. You go to Asia, and it's definitely not about labor cost. It's about digitizing data, audit, and being able to check levels of standards of document checking. You go to other parts of the US, and actually the compliance piece, because we automate the compliance checks in addition, is very important to them, because they do a lot of manual effort to literally cut and paste data from documents and check various compliance sites and look at false positives and hits. And our solution allows for connectivity with most of the global compliance providers for sanction screening and all TVML checks. So there are many, many different agendas that people use the platform for. What we say are the most important ones are managing operational risk, which is critical, obviously, making the job easier for the doc checkers. It's not about cutting costs, it's about how can we make their life easier. And actually, perversely, because this is now technology and really, really high tech, you're attracting graduates into trade finance that in the past they stayed clear of because it was considered boring and very manual. So in essence, you're actually making a new industry in the digitization of trade finance to attract a different level of talent.
So interesting, because you wouldn't associate digital transformation necessarily with this corner of the financial services industry. But you guys are really kind of blazing a trail and helping to automate many of these processes.
Yeah, I think
how much of the world's trade is digitized today?
That's a very good question, a difficult one to answer. And again, the interpretation of digitized. Does it mean, so if you go to parts of Africa or some of the poorer, smaller countries in Africa, in Asia, for them a PDF is a digitized data document, but that's not digitized. We are pulling data from a PDF into metadata, which you can then use in a malleable format to be able to then apply. So just digitizing by scanning it into a PDF is not digitized data. It's knowing how to pull the data from those points. So very hard to say what the percentages are. Obviously, our job as a business is to make the whole world digital for trade finance. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the successes we've seen along the way globally. But we are now seeing, and interestingly enough, post-COVID, the banks have been much more focused on trying to move towards digitized. So if you think about it, before COVID, the disaster recovery plans of most banks were, okay, we've got to be able to, worst case scenario, our team will come in smaller groups because parts of the office will be open, parts won't be, etc. Nobody ever anticipated that no office worker will ever be able to access or go into an office. And that's what happened in COVID. And of course, with digitized data in a cloud, and you guys have seen that growth as well, you don't need to be in an office. And in fact, it's the opposite's happening. People won't get back now to offices. And I think there's a big push from many global banks to bring people back in. But actually, you don't need to. You can literally have an internet URL, log into the cloud, Microsoft Azure, wherever you are in the world, and have access and be able to do your document reviews. So I think, all that has helped to move people into an environment where I think it's very much we're in this renaissance period of trade finance where everything is looking to get digitized.
You mentioned a little bit earlier on around the challenges, particularly your customers have with responding to trade and compliance rules. I imagine that is an ever-moving, evolving thing. As a platform, how do you help your customers respond and manage that when it comes to some of the automation technology?
So the thing about trade finance is that most trade rules are for LCs and documents are to do with UCP 600 and ISBP. Now they don't change that often. So the rules, UCP 600 is however many years old, and there's talk about another release in a few years. So the rules are set, and obviously there are position papers that need to get updated, and that's our responsibility. So we don't see a big change in the rules that often. However, the interpretation of those rules are varied by bank to bank, customer to customer. And our job as a business is to show every possible discrepancy that could be there. The bank's job is then to decide what is relevant from a discrepancy and what they're willing to ignore, accept, or consider acceptable in terms of the discrepancies. So it's very much an interpretation point as to how people take it. You go to certain countries, and if a comma is in a different place on two sentences, that's discrepant. And you go to other countries where they won't even look at it if the name is spelt with a double T rather than a single T. I mean, I'm just exaggerating a bit here, but the point is the standards are different. And our job is not to create the standards. Our job is to give the bank the opportunity to make those decisions, but giving them all the visibility so they can spend more time focused on doing the things that are important in decision making rather than just trying to find errors, which is what the platform does.
You touched on it a little bit earlier on in the kind of context of how the Traydstream technology works. I know the audience would love us to sort of dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah.
What kind of AI services are you using? I know we've got a deep partnership from an Azure AI perspective, but tell us a little bit about how you're doing that for banks and corporates.
Sure. I'll just take you through on a slide. We have a slide if we can bring that up. And you'll see that, what the process of what we do is actually to extract data very accurately using proprietary OCR technology, which uses, as I mentioned, neural network-based machine learning to extract data and learn document types and document sets. And today we have 180, 200 different document types. And once it's pulled the data, then it checks the data against other documents, against each other, including duplicate use of the same document. and also looking at all aspects of consistency across the documents. And we've built some pretty, I would say, complex algorithms to be able to do that check and interpret all the UCP 600 rules. Once it's done that and the decision making has been agreed or not by the user, they then have the choice, should they wish to then connect with most of the back-end trade finance providers. So we have connectivity with Finastra, Temenos, China Systems, Oracle, all the back-end trade providers, so the data can go straight into their back-end without any seamless, I'll take the data, copy and paste it and send it. It's all done end-to-end seamlessly, received from the back-end, checked on Traydstream and sent back to the back-end in a completely seamless fashion. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, we've got all the connectivity with most of the compliance providers. So you want to track your vessel, you want to track your bill of lading, you want to look at your container, you want to check for a sanction screen, you want to look at a price to make sure the price is correct on the goods. All of those, what we call trade-based money laundering checks, can also be propositioned and reviewed on the platform. And what we've done is, in our new version, or 2.0 as we call it, everything can be done in one screen. You don't have to flick around, review and check. You can review, position, and decide everything in one screen to make it easy for the user to be able to access and check documents.
I mean, this really is a global platform. I mean, I've always been actually fascinated with your ability to do this in an automated fashion at scale across multiple languages as well. How did that come about? And did you face any challenges with the development of the platform? Has it been iterative?
So again, sorry, if I can bring that slide back, just a quick couple of points. If you actually look at the slide and you see what we've done, I mean, the globality has happened over the last, I guess, 3 or 4 years. By definition, trade is global. There is a buyer and a seller in different parts of the world changing goods and financing that. And as a result of the bilateral nature of trade, we get to access and work with many banks around the world. And you'll see now we work with 31 clients as of now in 40 countries around the world. And that's literally from the west coast of the USA to Japan and everything in between. So we're pretty much represented in almost all the continents of the world. So that has happened because of the requirement, the need for everybody to use the platform. And the reason it's global, George, is because the rules of trade are the same whether you're exporting in China or Kenya or Malaysia or Japan. UCP 600 is the standards that everybody has to adhere to. And I'll just make the point on the languages. Actually, I think 89% of the world's trade is done in English. So today, the platform is only in English, just to be clear. It's not simple to just use Google Translate for French and then just have French, because phrases, terminologies, words are very different. So we are actually working with on the idea of 2 languages at the moment that we look to release this year, in addition to English. But actually, so far, as I said, 90% of the world's trade is done in English anyway. So it hasn't been a hindrance. But we have a couple of customers where a small percentage of their trade is done in French as one language or another. And we are looking at that for them to be able to completely complement all of their documents to be able to achieve that. So yeah, I think that is important, is that the fact that the market in the global world is so connected from a trade perspective, both through banking and correspondent banking, we have access to all the banks around the world. And of course, the other point I'll just make is that most of the team come from banks. We are all largely ex-bankers who've understood trade, known the problem, and actually found technology to fix a problem rather than, here's a piece of technology, what can it solve? We've very much done it with knowing what the pain is. And so as a result of that, and our experience of working in banks, we have a lot of connectivity, a lot of access, and a big network within the trade community, which, in many ways is like a global village of people.
Actually, going back to that point around the kind of skills that you needed when you founded the business, did you always know you were going to be an AI-focused company? Or is that something that's evolved as the technology has evolved?
It's a great question. And I think, our raison d'etre was to fix a problem. Paper, painful, manual effort and processes. That's what we wanted to fix. And what we did was say, how can we fix that? And first of all, why has it not been done? And there's a very good reason why. I think timing is everything. And secondly, what tools are out there to help us to do that? So as a result, it led us down that path of AI, machine learning, and algorithms, because actually there's no other way. And I can probably say that if we'd done this 15 years ago, we would not be able to get to where we got to today. Technology has advanced so much. Sometimes I say we're a bit like kids in a candy store. Wow, it can do this. Wow, it can do this. Wow, you can do this. Because we're like, we can't believe sometimes it can be done. And that's the same effect we have with our clients. They're like, really, you can do that? It's a bit like that. So we have gone down the route of AI, and we're working closely with you on a few projects, including Gen AI stuff now as well. How can we incorporate more and more of this to make it even less frictionless and easier and more end-to-end, faster and faster and faster? So we have not sat on our laurels. We want to make the process faster, better, and actually our next phase of growth is going to be how you cement the ecosystem of trade. So you're doing more than just processing, but all the other things that add off the back of that. And there's more to come in the coming months, you'll see.
It's such a good point you make, because it's never been as exciting a time, I think, to create and run an AI focused platform and organization, particularly at the speed in which we're seeing the technology evolve with some of the large language models, also small language models, is incredible. There's whole new business models being created off the back of some of these breakthroughs. So as I guess individuals sitting within this industry, it's a really exciting place to be.
Yeah.
And also looking at just some of the numbers that you had on your previous
Yeah.
slide that you were showing, I mean, some incredible progress that you've made in a short space of time. Are there particular milestones that you've celebrated along the way? Is there anything you're working towards?
Yeah, I mean, you can see some of the clients, right? I mean, you don't win Citibank and Deutsche, easily without having a solution that works and people feel confident on. And we're global rollouts with both of those organizations. Standard Bank has been a fantastic customer that we've rolled out Pan Africa, ABSA the same, RMB. So all these are very, very personally rewarding for us to say that actually we have a solution that works, and we have a global support model, a follow the sun model now. So we've matured as a business. I suppose if I say what are the milestones, I mean, obviously, getting from an A round, Series A, getting our Series B round, we raised $21 million in October. I think that's a pretty strong. I think we all felt very strongly that actually if you've got external people willing to bet with that kind of investment, that gives us all more comfort and confidence and support to be able to give us the tools and the ammunition we need to do a lot more, which we have a lot more to do. And as I mentioned, more to come on that front. But yeah, we are excited by the fact that we've got to this point. We know that that's a lot of people don't get to this point, so we're very fortunate and very grateful for that. On your point on the AI side, I think it's an interesting point to make, because I see lots of people that seem to use AI for the sake of using AI. Oh, we use AI. But actually, fundamentally, I think where it really works well is where there is a real problem that needs addressing. And AI could be the best answer or the solution for that problem. But rather than trying to find a problem that AI can fix, it should be, what is the problem and how can AI fix that problem? And I think that's what we've always tried to focus on, is saying, we know that this is an issue. We know this is a problem. We know this is very manual. What tools are out there to support it? And generally, AI has a big part to play in that.
We've been talking quite a bit, obviously, around trade finance and the focus that you've had within that kind of banking ecosystem. I guess if you really look at the underlying technology, it can be applied to lots of other, I guess, industries and use cases. And there's a lot of work that you're doing with corporates as well. Do you mind just telling us a little bit about that sort of next evolution of the business and the platform, and maybe where you're targeting some of your customers next?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't want to give away too many trade secrets, So, but to give you the general direction of travel, one of the reasons we need to raise this money is to build our product suite. Trade is a really encapsulated ecosystem. If you think about trade, I'm buying something and selling it to you. That triggers off lots of things. You're going to have to finance it. You're going to have to insure it. You may have to even get some working capital around it. You may have to make a payment to me through an FX. All those things are all related in the trade. And today in banks, it's all very, very disparately. If there's a way that we can build a connected ecosystem where life becomes a lot more seamless for banks, corporates, and all the stakeholders. And actually, one thing I didn't mention about trade, which is, again, unique in many ways to trade, is that in any single transaction, there are so many actors. Well, I think that's why blockchain has never really taken the way it should do. It's not just a buyer and a seller. It's the insurance company, it's the logistics company, it's the freight forwarding company, it's the packing company, sometimes chambers of commerce. Everybody has a say in the process. And with blockchain, we saw that unless everybody was on it in the same environment, it didn't work because you had to have everybody on it. And we know how difficult it is to get everyone connected in one environment, all subscribing to the same thing. So one of the things about trade which makes it unique is that there are many, many different actors involved. And what we're trying to do is to simplify that ecosystem in a digital style so that everyone has a much more, has got something to gain within the connected party ecosystem and benefit from, rather than just, I've got to do this because my bank's on. No, you're going to benefit. Everyone's going to benefit.
Well, we very much started our partnership between Microsoft and Traydstream centered around the trade check solution. So for anybody listening, you can go and see that in the Azure Marketplace today. Trade check is transactable there. What do you think the sort of next step, particularly with the Microsoft Traydstream partnership, is, and what other solutions? We talked a little bit about Gen AI. Maybe there's something we can tease the audience with there.
Yeah. So look, I think, George, we've been delighted so far with the Microsoft, and appreciative of the efforts of you and the team generally. We see this as hopefully the start of what is a beautiful relationship as we move forward. I'm super excited by the co-pilot stuff that you guys have done, and I've been to a couple of your events and been very impressed by the work that's going on there. So that's something we want to trial, not just for our own internal, but can we create a co-pilot on our environment, which we can use as using some of the tools that you've got. We're also looking, as you know, at how we can use Gen AI, and there are, I think, 2 use cases we're looking to build together around this space to say how can we use that within the environment so that it can help us internally and also with customers. Obviously, data is a key part of the future and what we're trying to do. And again, I know there's some conversations around how you can help us on that as well. So, we definitely see a huge opportunity to leverage each other's network, and obviously your banking specialists and everybody else have been very supportive in working out ways. And I think we have a couple of clients that we're working together on where we're trying to develop the offering for that client and develop new things. So it's exciting. We're very excited using your network and the power of your global infrastructure for web-based activities, and obviously our global client base and knowledge of the industry. I think works very well together as a marriage, and we are very, very focused on working closely to try and achieve more and develop things and breaking frontiers, right? I mean, I think if I one thing I will say about Microsoft, and I know this can sound like a plug to you, but genuinely I say this, is that you are very innovative and very kind of forthcoming and trying new things and doing new things and pushing the boundaries. And that's what we're about as well, which I think is why the relationship works so well, because we have that same kind of mindset, connectivity and innovation.
It's such a great point you make, Uzair, because the breakthrough in a lot of these, I guess, AI innovations, they're only really as good as its ability to be used in a way that is generating value for your customers. Yeah, everyone, as technologists, we all like a new shiny product.
Yeah.
But particularly in this kind of Gen AI era, I think really focusing in on how does this make the work of your trade document checkers life easier, better, quicker, more valuable, is it's kind of the grounding that we need for a lot of this next phase in the partnership. So really excited to go on that journey with you.
Absolutely, and I think what's also really refreshing, George, is that you have obviously a very strong vertical in the financial services space. So, I mean, some of the colleagues, Peter and others, have worked in banks, in trade, doing trade, and that really helps because you kind of understand what we're trying to address. And even when you're out there talking to customers and you talk about Traydstream, it's spoken with the level of knowledge and understanding that you see the value and benefit in what we're doing. And it's not just something you're saying, it's actually, you understand that. So for sure, that really helps us. So no, we're excited to be working together with you as well. And I hope that there's more exciting innovation we can create together.
Well, I want to thank you for being so candid about your experience and learnings. They're invaluable, really, for any organization that might be on a similar pathway to Traydstream, be that in trade finance or indeed other industries. I love that the platform is designed by trade experts for trade experts. Do you mind just telling the audience a little bit about where they can go to find out more about Traydstream? Where's the best place to?
Well, I hope everywhere they see us, but obviously we are very active on social media. The website is www.traydstream, Trayd, stream.com. It's an interesting story, actually. When we set the company up, I wanted Traydstream, Trade, but it already existed. And so there was an option to have Trayd, which at the beginning I was a little bit kind of, I'm not sure, but actually I think it really separates us actually and helps us to kind of be a bit distinctive. So I think God was kind to us that day because it worked very well, I think. So we really like the trade. And obviously there's Trade Check and all the other things, all the other products with the Y, which I think means that people hopefully find us. So if you type in Trayd stream, you'll find us everywhere, I hope.
So I thought that was a marketing trick. I thought it was a very clever
it was actually, sorry,
SEO. Well, thank you. And if anyone listening has founded an early stage digital startup, then please do check out the Microsoft for Startups program. We call it Founders Hub. You can go and check that out online. It's a similar program to the one that Traydstream and lots of our other AI partners have been through. You receive a host of technology donations and credits, so particularly for services like Azure and OpenAI, as well as access to technical advisory. So if you're looking for support in building modern AI applications, you're very welcome to sign up. And with that, we'll close the call. Thank you so much, Uzair, for telling your story.
And I should also just say one final point, if I may, is that we are on the Azure marketplace, and there is some work to do to get there, but it is so worth it. So for anyone who's looking at it, I would say stick with it and definitely use it because it has value not just to you, but also to your customers. And we've seen that already. Thank you.
That's an awesome point. Thank you.